hesitate to look back and see what a treasure trove there is of the past. Not only things that repeat themselves because everything comes around, but you can mine the past for forgotten treasures and bring them back to life again. A lot of folk singers just do that with obscure songs. Let's sing them once more, folks. And so I have the silly songs. I've made a few notes here that I learned at my mother's knee. And her brother, my uncle, who just recently passed. Now I'm an elder in the tribe because he was the oldest one. He's gone. Uncle Don. And my mom went back in the 80s, but she was a musician herself, a graduate of Shenandoah Conservatory, and she had a beautiful soprano operatic voice. And I don't like opera. I mean, I dig Carmen, but that's just not my cup of tea. But boy, she could transport you to the clouds when she sang. And she taught me this one. 'Twas only an old beer bottle a-floating on the foam. 'Twas only an old beer bottle a million miles from home. Inside was a piece of paper with these words written on. If anyone finds this bottle, they'll find the beer's all gone. I sang that as a kid, wandering around. Hey, who taught you about a beer bottle, kid? You know, and I actually used that in the video Pirates with Skin Beer.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. I started doing stand-up comedy back in the 80s with an old high school pal. We were the Video Pirates. And we just thought we'd pull out all the stops and cheat and do everything that no one was doing in stand-up. Back then, you were supposed to be some guy, and it was unusual if you were a female comedian, and you had to have a little sport jacket rolled up to your sleeve, and your whole act had to be, so, how's everybody doing tonight? And you appeared to wing it. Of course, you didn't want it to show through the cracks that you had prepared material, so you try to launch your jokes and just rock it and work the room. We thought, we're going to ignore the room. We're going to put on weird costumes, sing songs, do impressions and skits, and plan them and rehearse them. And yet we pulled the double punch on people because we did the Smothers Brothers dynamic. I'm digressing now. About the fight between the captain and Skinbeard that was ever going. We had a tradition of I'd kill him once a set, and he would sing from the ground. We pulled the trick where we looked like we were planning one thing, but back here we were actually planning to make you think we fucked up what we planned. And we'd fight and I'd kill him. And so it was a beautiful thing. You'd have the straight guy trying to do a show, and you'd have the clown over here go, tapping you on the shoulder, what? And we sang the old beer bottle, and what we did there was I'd teach him to sing, and he could harmonize as easy as breathing. And we'd sing that barbershop style with 2 parts. And then he'd continue after I figured the song was over. They'll find the beer's all gone. And I'd be like, and we'd get a laugh, and I'd be like, thank you very much. The captain just sang his song, and he'd continue over there. He'd go, the naked ladies gathered. And I'd look at him like, what? He's in implements galore. No, you can't. They writhed in heated passion. Stop it, will you? Up on the barroom floor. Will you knock it off? And he'd stop and like, what? I'd say, first of all, you were just as flat as the beer in that bottle. And one time I cracked up another comedian who was in the audience, the fat doctor. I said, you were just as flat as those naked ladies. He wasn't expecting it. But the beautiful thing was we took something from the past that was a relic, and who cares about the silly beer bottle song, but we made it something new. So I'd like to implore everyone who's writing or performing to do the same kind of thing. There is a treasure trove just 30 years behind your birth. Look into it and find out what was going on back then. Silly old comedies. Everybody remembers the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges. But check out Wheeler and Woolsey and the Ritz Brothers and Spanky's work other than the Little Rascals and stuff like that.
I'm too young to remember any of that.
Well, we got the records now.
Know how to search for it.
You can find just about anything. Anyway, my mother taught me another one. I want to do the silly songs. She taught me, I want to just bring to mind some of the songs that my generation grew up with from school and camp and the shadow of World War II and from the top 40 at the time. And then I want to talk briefly about, if we can, and I want feedback from you guys anytime. With your personal silly songs and earworms, if you have one, get up and sing them out. Sometimes that helps you purge them. Also, I want to remember people like Roger Miller and Alan Sherman. Weird Al Yankovic is still with us, but these people that have passed, Tom Lehrer is still around, and he writes a silly damn song that has some punch to it, and the two Al's. And then I have a number of songs of my own writing for your listening and dancing pleasure. And if everything wraps up in time, and I hope so, we're going to play a little film that I was in, lucky enough to be in. And Wes was going to be, but he had another gig that day. And I'm real proud of being in it, and I think you'll get a giggle. So anyway, the other song that I learned from my mother was a bit from Carmen, you know, and I think everyone knows this one. I heard Frazier sing it, you know. Toreador, don't spit on the floor, use the cuspidor, that's what it's for. It gets me through the day thinking these little silly things sometimes. My Uncle Don used to sing this song, and we got no end of amusement out of it. Neath the crust of the old apple pie, there is something for you and for I. Oh, it may be a pin that the cook has dropped in, or it may be an old dirty fly. It may be an old rusty nail, or a piece of the pussycat's tail. But whatever it be, it's for you and for me, 'neath the crust of the old apple pie. That's a silly dance song, isn't it? Oh, and here's one more my mother taught me. This is a great one. While the organ peeled potatoes, lard was rendered by the choir, while the sextant rang the dish rag, someone set the church afire. Holy smokes, the preacher shouted, and in the rush he lost his hair. Now his head resembles heaven, for there can be no parting there. And Uncle Don was as balder than me. So yeah. Anyway, that's the kind of upbringing I had, thank goodness. My dad was silly too, and he was a scientist. He was a fine, upstanding pillar of the community, a medical doctor, and he painted oil on canvas. He dabbled in cuisine, you know, gourmet cuisine. And blah, blah. From school and camp, we all learned ta-ra-ra-boom-de-ay, we have no school today, our teacher passed away, we shot her yesterday, we threw her in the bay, she scared the sharks away, ta-ra-ra-boom-de-ay. You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, that's from a very old song, turn of the century, kind of a minstrel show song about a woman with no standards, and she's singing about just how slutty she is. And that also goes with the There was a school song, Taunt. There were two versions. Remember the polite one and the naughty one. The polite one was, so-and-so's a friend of mine, he resembles Frankenstein, you know, just to insult your buddy. Or the other one was probably a little older, and you didn't sing it in open on the buzz. It was so-and-so's a friend of mine, he will blow me anytime. For a nickel or a dime, you know. Kids taunt each other, they do that. But that song goes back 100 years, and I think it's important to remember that thing, you know. And there's the Nya-Nya song that every child on the face of the earth is hardwired to do. That's actually an ancient Scottish lullaby. Based on that. Bye, baby bunting, Papa's gone a hunting, gonna get a rabbit skin to wrap the baby bunting in. So just keep in mind that nothing is old, nothing is new.
What an Honorable Snowman saying that in a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Yeah. Oh, and don't get me started on Bugs Bunny, baby. Him singing silly songs. Down where the trade winds play. Oh, Mel Blanc is another god to me besides Mark Twain. I wish I could have met him. My buddy Skinbeard the Sailor could do a spot on Mel Blanc impression. He could talk like Mel Blanc talking. You know what I mean? He was just, and he's still around, but he's retired from show business. He kind of decided he'd had enough of the stage, and God bless him. And that, in fact, the other couple of acts, they killed him. You know, it was killing him. There were people that wouldn't work with him, but enough said about that. He's a wonderful person and my best friend and brother. Anyway, from World War II, we got this one. Well, let me go into another point. World War II gave us a whole bunch of songs on the radio that were nonsense to the point where some people thought they were coded messages to spies. Maresy dotes and dozy totes and little Nancy divey, kettly divey too, wouldn't you? What is that? And even worse than that was hold tight, hold tight, hold tight, Sukiyaki want some seafood, mama. What is that? That was a popular song. Andrew's sister's singing it. Huts at Rawson on the Rilla Ryan, a brawler, so what the hell is that? But then, Spike Jones, I don't know who wrote this song, but Spike Jones had a big thing with, when the Führer says, wie is the master race, then we heil, right in the Führer's face. Not to love the Führer is a big disgrace, so we heil, right in the Führer's face. Oh, what a song, man. Oh, it's great. I said not the Superman, Yappy is the Superman, super duper duperman, super duper duperman. Man, you know, and silly songs are important, even as propaganda. Sometimes if you make bitter propaganda silly, it goes down a little better, you know? A spoonful of sugar, man. Then growing up, we had plenty of silly songs on the top 40. You know, they're coming to take me away. Ha ha, they're coming to take me away. And that would be a real earworm sometimes. And on the flip side of that, on the vinyl 45, was the whole thing backwards. They even made the label mirror on the thing. It was crazy. Here's one for you that no one expects you to play on a ukulele that came from that time, and it's a silly damn song. Good sense, innocence, crippling and kind. Dead kings, many things I can't define. Occasions, persuasions, clutter your mind. Incense and peppermint's the color of time. Who cares what games we choose? Little to win, nothing to lose. Incense and peppermints, meaningless nouns. Tune in, turn on, turn your eyes around. Look at yourself, look at yourself. Yeah, yeah. Look at yourself, look at yourself. Yeah, yeah. Wow, my fingers are getting tired. It's a tough song to play, but it's funny. I think it is. I'll finish it in a second here. To divide this cockeyed world in two, throw your pride to one side, least you can do. Beatniks in politics, nothing is new. A yardstick for lunatics, one point of view. Incense and peppermints, incense and peppermints. Sha-la-la, sha-la-la. Oh, sha-la-la, something like that, anyway. Sorry, just getting warmed up here, folks, just getting warmed up. Thank you, though. Incense and Peppermint, a silly song, but, you know, it transports you, doesn't it?
Yes.
It makes you feel like you're almost tripping. And the way they played that
Day
organ.
3, everybody's tripping.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Oops. I want to talk briefly, too, about some favorite people of mine. One of them is Roger Miller, and, you know, he had a big career and went too early, kind of, for some reason, he peaked and went, and now he's barely remembered. Everybody remembers King of the Road, if they still do. But he wrote a plethora of silly, beautiful songs. One of them was, my uncle used to love me, but you died. Chicken ain't chicken till it's licking good fried. Keep on the sunny side. My uncle used to love me, but you died. You know, he's one of the few people I'll do a singing impression of, all right, because he had that distinctive accent and everything. And he wrote, he's one of the only artists I know, vocal, of any genre, that would scat and yodel, often in the same song. And I have a modest example here. It's called Kansas City Star, and that's a little easier to play than Incense and Peppermint. Got a letter just this morning, it was postmarked Omaha. It was typed and neatly written, offering me this better job at higher wages, expenses paid and a car. But I'm on TV here locally and I can't quit, I'm a star. I come on TV, a grinning warrior and pistols and a hat. It's a kiddie show and I'm a hero of the younger set. I'm a #1 attraction every supermarket parking lot. I'm the king of Kansas City, no thanks, Omaha, thanks a lot. Kansas City star, that's what I are. You ought to see my car, drive a big old Cadillac with wire wheels, got rhinestones on the spokes. I get credit down at my grocery store and my barber tells me jokes. I'm a #1 attraction every supermarket parking lot. I'm the king of Kansas City, no thanks, Omaha, thanks a lot. Stay tuned, kids, there'll be a Popeye cartoon on in a minute. I love that guy, man. Here's another one of his that I like to do, if I may. Chug-a-lug, make you wanna holler, hidey-ho. Burns your tummy, don't you know? Chug-a-lug, 4-H and FFA. On a field trip to, no, that's the second verse, so let me start again. Grape wine in a mason jar, homemade and brought to school by a friend of mine after class. Me and him and this other fool decided that we'd drink up what's left. Chug-a-lug, so I helped myself. First time for everything, my ears still ring. Chug-a-lug, make you wanna holler, hidey-ho. Burns your tummy, don't you know? Chug-a-lug, 4-H and FFA. On a field trip to the farm, me and a friend sneaked off behind this big old barn where we uncovered up moonshine still. And we thought we drank a fill. Said, let me have a big old sip. Done a double black flip. Chug-a-lug, make you wanna holler, hidey-ho. Burns your tummy, don't you know? Chug-a-lug, jukebox on a sawdust floor. Something like I have never seen. Heck, I was just going on 15. But with the help of Buff and Eglin, Uncle, I got snuck in. Had my first taste of sin. Said, and I swallowed it with a smile. I run 10 miles. Chug-a-lug, make you wanna holler, hidey-ho. Burns your tummy, don't you know? Chug-a-lug, shoop-a-dum-boom. That guy was great, man.
You can't lose Jacob Buff Saturday nights at MAGFest.
Well, yes, it is, isn't it? Before we're, it was an object lesson and a reminiscent walk down memory lane at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
That guy, man, that guy. Anyway, Tom Lehrer, what can you say about Tom Lehrer? An icon of American ingenuity and an evil genius. And I am proud to say that I have one of his songs committed to memory. It's my own personal sobriety test, and I think at this point, this early in the day, I might even pass. Let me just try it. Hold on. I don't play piano, so I have to do it a cappella. There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatite, and radium, and gold, and protactinium, and indium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and thallium. This is where the piano would come in. There's yttrium, ytterbium, actinium, rubidium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and strontium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, and bismuth, bromine, lithium, beryllium, and barium. Ba, 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 ba. I hope you're taking notes because there'll be a quiz next period. Ba, 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 ba. There's polonium, and helium, and hafnium, and nervium, and phosphorus, and francium, and fluorine, and terbium, and manganese, and mercury, molybdenum, magnesium, dysprosium, and scandium, and cerium, and cesium. Lead, praseodymium, platinum, plutonium, palladium, promethium, potassium, polonium, tantalum, technetium, titanium, tellurium, and cadmium and calcium and chromium and curium. There's sulfur, californium, and fermium, berkelium, and also mendelevium, einsteinium, nobelium, and argon, krypton, neon, radon, xenon, zinc, and rhodium, and chlorine, carbon, cobalt, tungsten, tin, and sodium. Almost made it. These are the only ones of which the news is from the Harvard. Thank you. And there may be many others, but they haven't been discovered. Bum, bum. Thank you. All right. Thank you for that. I struggled through it, but
How long did
appreciate
it
it.
take you to memorize all those?
About 4 days. I sat in my basement and crammed them into my head. I had to have it. I simply had to have it, you know. In order to whip it out on occasions just like this, and I used to do a much better job, but like I said, it's my own personal sobriety test, Phil. It's early on a Sunday, but I'm at MAGLabs, okay? Please forgive me. These other songs I know I'll handle a lot better because I play them a million times before breakfast, usually. Banjo-lele, ladies and gentlemen, the hybrid of the ukulele. This comes in handy because it's so much louder than this thing. Also, being a concert size like this, it's got more room on the fretboard. That's just one of the challenges of the ukulele, besides it being tiny, is people making fun of it when they don't even know how precious it is. There was a wave of ukulele popularity that came about 10 years ago, and I caught it. I didn't even know it was happening, but I've known about the instrument all my life, like most people. That, you know, it's like something you hang on your wall, bring back from Honolulu, and pretend you got a grass skirt or something on. But no, it is a versatile thing, and anyone can play this. It's like cheating, okay? Get yourself one. If you have any motivation toward making your own music, start with a uke, go from there, but you can't beat it. I'm a proud acolyte of the ukulele. Anyway, one of the things the uke did for me is I played guitar. Years ago, I played guitar in the Video Pirates. I would just basically kind of adequate, basic first position chords and fairly good right hand with a flat pick. But I was never as good as almost anyone else that played guitar, because everyone plays guitar or tries to, and a whole lot of guys sing Cats in the Cradle and nobody wants to hear it. And, and sorry, but they're putting their heart into it, so you have to listen. But so one of the things that the uke did for me was when I discovered it, I had kind of hung up the guitar, hadn't played for a while, and hadn't written anything since the old days. I fell in love with this thing, picked it up, learned to play it in about 3 weeks, pretty well, and I've gotten hopefully better and better ever since. My fingers got cramped up there a little bit, but I'm old. I started writing songs again, and that's right there is enough for me to say, God bless this thing. Yeah. And I wrote this one first off. This is an homage to all those chronic liars out there. And confession is good for the soul, folks. This is called Everything I Say. Oh, my dearest, I have a secret I must share, or else my heart will break. Oh, alas, this burden I can no longer bear, and so this confession I make. Don't believe anything I tell you, darling, everything I say is a lie. There ain't a single shred of truth in anything I've ever said, it's all been pie in the sky. I told you I was Champagne Charlie, really I'm just six-pack Pete. I told you I roared around town on a Harley, but all I got to roaring is my 2 flat feet. Oh yeah, the clothing and the cars were rented, the names and the places all invented. Baby, when I said it, I really, really meant it, but everything I say is a lie. Cue the horn, ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba. Everything I say is a lie, ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-da-ba. I guess I'm just that kind of guy. I told you I stayed at the Waldorf Astoria, and I was a trader in stocks. But really I live at the Y in Peoria, and I only own 3 pairs of socks. I got the conscience of an alligator, I'm one pernicious prevaricator. I'll tell you something new or true or better, different later. Everything I say is a lie. Oh, but there was one time time I really told the truth. On the day we said I do. I know you don't believe me anymore. I wouldn't if I were you. So now you know the reason why all I ever gave you was an alibi. Cross my heart and hope to die. Everything I say is a lie, I really mean it. Everything I say is a lie, and I'm not kidding. Everything I say is a lie, just being honest. Everything I ever told you was just an outright bald-faced, big, fat, stinking lie, lie, lie. Lie, 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 lie. La 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 la. I launched into my little symposium here without even, where are my manners? Ladies and gentlemen, Wes Johnson is here with me, and God bless you for being fantastic. Okay, all right. Let me do one more song.
One more song?
And then we're gonna roll the movie. Is that all right?
Cool.
Okay, I'll just leave you wanting more, because I got a bunch of my songs, but you can find them on YouTube probably.
Where can we find them on YouTube?
Mike Rawson.
Is it Mike Rawson or
Yeah.
any of your aliases?
Well, Big Bill Brody is who I am today in my loud coat, and that's a subject of a whole other panel, Big Bill Brody. He's still evolving. Here's a song written by him. I want to do this one. I didn't actually write this, but I nailed them together. Two songs that are very important to all of us, I think. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. I woke up one morning in my haze, and these two songs were in my head, interwoven. And I'll show you what I mean, but just about one little digression. Our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, as we know, was a poem written by Francis Scott Key on the eve of the Battle of Fort McHenry in the War of 1812. He put it to a tune that came from a club he belonged to in London. He was a lawyer, and he belonged to this club in London called the Sons of Anacreon. They were devoted to wine drinking and free love. And they had a theme song, which was a story of their appeal to this dead Greek poet that he would sanctify their proceedings. And Zeus didn't like it, and Momus and Apollo stood up in his defense, and it's a silly song. But it goes to Anacreon in heaven where he sat in full glee. It's that song. And so he put the battle poem to it. I woke up one morning thinking, wait a minute, these two songs are the same thing. You'll get the idea when I tell you. Here come old Flat Top, he come grooving up slowly. He got choo-choo eyeballs, he won holy roller. He got hair down to his knees. He got to be a joker, he just do what he please. He wear no shoe shine, he got toe jam football. He got monkey finger, he shoot Coca-Cola. He say, I know you, you know me. One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave come together right now. Two very different songs. Thank you. Thank you, Francis Scott Key, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that point where I'd like us to watch this little thing from a long time ago, digging up the treasures of the past. You will see in this myself portraying a filthy sandwich short order cook, and the, God rest his soul, Stefan Gilbert, who we all knew and loved as the owner of this awful joint. Sherry Elliker, starring with my dear brother Al Rawson, is the main couple, and it's called The Better Half. And we're going to bring it up here, and if we have enough time at the end of it all, I want y'all's feedback, your silly songs, anything you want to say to me and Wes here. I appreciate it, and I thank you for coming and listening to me for throughout this tedium. I sure do appreciate it, and I welcome anything you got to say.
Due to a lovely offer by Hilton Honors, temporarily bought.
Technical difficulties.
never hesitate to look back and see what a treasure trove there is of the past. Not only things that repeat themselves because everything comes around, but you can mine the past for forgotten treasures and bring them back to life again. A lot of folk singers just do that with obscure songs. Let's sing them once more, folks. And so I have the silly songs. I've made a few notes here that I learned at my mother's knee. And her brother, my uncle, who just recently passed. Now I'm an elder in the tribe because he was the oldest one. He's gone. Uncle Don. And my mom went back in the 80s, but she was a musician herself, a graduate of Shenandoah Conservatory, and she had a beautiful soprano operatic voice. And I don't like opera. I mean, I dig Carmen, but that's just not my cup of tea. But boy, she could transport you to the clouds when she sang. And she taught me this one. 'Twas only an old beer bottle a-floating on the foam. 'Twas only an old beer bottle a million miles from home. Inside was a piece of paper with these words written on. If anyone finds this bottle, they'll find the beer's all gone. I sang that as a kid, wandering around. Hey, who taught you about a beer bottle, kid? You know, and I actually used that in the video Pirates with Skin Beer.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. I started doing stand-up comedy back in the 80s with an old high school pal. We were the Video Pirates. And we just thought we'd pull out all the stops and cheat and do everything that no one was doing in stand-up. Back then, you were supposed to be some guy, and it was unusual if you were a female comedian, and you had to have a little sport jacket rolled up to your sleeve, and your whole act had to be, so, how's everybody doing tonight? And you appeared to wing it. Of course, you didn't want it to show through the cracks that you had prepared material, so you try to launch your jokes and just rock it and work the room. We thought, we're going to ignore the room. We're going to put on weird costumes, sing songs, do impressions and skits, and plan them and rehearse them. And yet we pulled the double punch on people because we did the Smothers Brothers dynamic. I'm digressing now. About the fight between the captain and Skinbeard that was ever going. We had a tradition of I'd kill him once a set. And he would sing from the ground. We pulled the trick where we looked like we were planning one thing, but back here we were actually planning to make you think we fucked up what we planned. And we'd fight and I'd kill him. And so it was a beautiful thing. You'd have the straight guy trying to do a show, and you'd have the clown over here go, tapping you on the shoulder, what? And we sang the old beer bottle, and what we did there was I'd teach him to sing, and he could harmonize as easy as breathing, and we'd sing that barbershop style with 2 parts, and then he'd continue after I figured the song was over. They'll find the beer's all gone, and I'd be like, and we'd get a laugh, and I'd be like, thank you very much. The captain just sang his song, and he'd continue over there. He'd go, the naked ladies gathered, and I'd look at him like, what? He's in implements galore. No, you can't. They writhed in heated passion. Stop it, will you? Up on the barroom floor. Will you knock it off? And he'd stop and like, what? I'd say, first of all, you were just as flat as the beer in that bottle. And one time I cracked up another comedian who was in the audience, the fat doctor. I said, you were just as flat as those naked ladies. He wasn't expecting it. But the beautiful thing was we took something from the past that was a relic, and who cares about the silly beer bottle song, but we made it something new. So I'd like to implore everyone who's writing or performing to do the same kind of thing. There is a treasure trove just 30 years behind your birth. Look into it and find out what was going on back then. Silly old comedies. Everybody remembers the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges. But check out.
Lunch or